Boca Raton Beach and Park District is now called to order. It is Monday, May 20th, 2019. The time is 5:15 p.m. And Joanne, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ernst?
Here.
Commissioner Engel?
Here.
Commissioner Rollins?
Here.
Commissioner Vogelsang?
Here.
And Commissioner White?
Thank you, Joanne. I'd like to ask you all at this time to please silence your phones, and if you need to have a conversation with your neighbor, please step out in the hallway so that we can all conduct the meeting. We won't be offended if you get up and walk out and come back. Now, we do have one change to the agenda. After we do public requests and the approval of the minutes, we're going to approve our invoices. Are there any other changes? No other changes? Okay. We are very fortunate to have Councilwoman O'Rourke here with her Art in Public Places. She's going to be our first public request.
Thank you so much. First of all, beautiful new dais and building, so congratulations on that. I'm Andrea Levine O'Rourke. I am with Boca Raton City Council. I live at 100 Southeast 5th Avenue, and I am delighted to be here tonight. It's going to kind of be a hit and run because I have to be somewhere else, and I appropriately dressed in my art clothes, although immediately someone thought it was Art Koski, so So art, you are not the legal drug. It's art is art in the art form. That is what I call a legal drug. So thanks to the City of Boca Raton and Beach and Parks District, we were able to get an initiative that was very important to me called Art in Public Places off the ground. We were able to bring the initiative forward, get a board appointed, but we had no money. So I went and asked the city for some money, and they were generous enough to put some seed money into it. And then I came to Beach and Parks District, and they were, without even blinking, generous enough to match the funds of the city. So with that, it enabled us to get 2 projects off the ground. And I just wanted to come here and share with you. I think most of you have seen Red Reef West, which I have a quick little picture of, but what I really wanted to share tonight are the tunnels at Spanish River. So that project is now complete. We won't really be having an official unveiling because logistically the tunnels aren't that close together. It's now summertime, they just finished. So it's a little difficult to pull an event together, but we will be doing a video that we will throw out all over the place, social media and every place we can, which a volunteer from the Art in Public Places Board is doing. So when that's complete, I think it'll be very, very impressive. So I just want to quickly see if I can do this. I know this is all new, so this, as you can see, this was the Red Reef, and that was our staff, Ruby Childers and Amy Price, who very quickly got a call to artists complete very quickly for the city timeline, and also did contracts for artists and knocked that out. When we did the Red Reef project, we had, in 2 weeks' time, we had 47 responses of artists who wanted to paint on these walls. We had 6 walls, we added 2 more, so ultimately we ended up with 8 artists. And I don't have all of them here, but most of you just go down to Red Reef West by the back of Gumbo Limbo, just by the golf course, and you'll see these great walls. We also had added the gatehouse when you come into Red Reef. So it just adds this layer of color and fun to the community. And then we go on to the tunnel project. So can you hear me if I talk? Because I can't see well from over there. So we did the North Tunnel, the Central Tunnel, and the South Tunnel. And we picked an artist for each side. So from the park side, there's 1 artist, and on the beach side, there's another artist. So it was a total of 6 artists. This is the North Tunnel coming in from the park. This was an artist, and they all signed their work. This is Craig McGinnis, and they came into the tunnel. It was just too big of an undertaking to paint the inside of the tunnel. So they did around the tunnels and about 6 feet in. And then this is, whoops, this is the other side. It says, oh, fast. No, don't want to say. Well, you get the idea. So this, and some of these might look familiar. Interestingly enough, the board who blindly picked the artists, they didn't know who each other were selecting. picked almost the same artists for both projects, and that was strictly a coincidence, but apparently their work stood out. So this is Ivan Roque. He's the one that did that long wall at Red Reef, and he also did a beautiful wall here. And then this is the Central Tunnel. So this is Gregory Durr. He's a local. Everyone is local, but not necessarily Boca. He happens to be a Boca boy. And we encourage the artists because the walls at Red Reef were very representational. They were inspired by Gumbo Limbo on the beach. So we said, hey, that's fine, but you don't just have to do that. You can do whatever you feel you want to do. If you want to go abstract, go abstract. And so he explains it really, how the different colors and what the different shapes mean to him. But we were happy to see some new ideas. And when you're approaching these tunnels, they're not that easy to find in the park. All of a sudden, the color just kind of pulls you into them. So here, well, it's not what he say, but I was showing where he signed his. This is the other side of the Central Tunnel on the beach side, and it's just beautiful when you see this in person. This is Tom Daria. There's his signature, and it just looks beautiful. Just so that his is a little more representational. This one, so now we get to the South Tunnels, and this is Agata Wren. She's another local Art Boca artist, and she chose to incorporate some found trash. So I have a close-up. I hope it'll stay on there. She took just things that she found coming from the ocean, and what she said was when she was doing it, she had all kinds of scraps laid out on the ground. And what happened was they did this. It took them about 2 weeks. They couldn't paint on the weekends. It was just during the week. And so every day people would leave her treats. They would go out on the beach and find her trash. So it turned into a project that, and this is what public art is about. It just invites, participation, and it's just a sense of place and a sense of gathering. So people, every day she would come and she would have a whole bunch of new things. And if you go and you look at it, there's all kinds of found objects in her art. So now on the other side of her piece, this is, I said Tom, and his name will show next, I'm blanking out. Peter Agardi, so another artist. And his, when you're standing and you're looking at this and the ocean is behind you, you almost feel like it's a mirror. It just looks like you're looking at what you just left. And he went all the way down the wall. He went all the way down to the where it ends from the beach side. You can see where he signed it on the inside. So, thank you. If it wasn't for you, this would not have gotten done. So I wanted to just take a few minutes of my time to be here and say thank you so much. I look forward to more wonderful partnerships and doing more art. The board will be kind of marinating on this over the summer and early fall, and hopefully come to the council and to you with ideas of what their ideas are for the next projects. So I just wanted to come and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andrea. It was beautiful.
Any questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, I know you have an important meeting tonight, so I wish you all the best of luck.
We appreciate you coming to show us all of this. It's absolutely outstanding.
Thank you. Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
I'm going to slip out.
Okay.
This way. Thanks.
Let's continue with our public requests. And please step up to the microphone. If you may give your name and address and let us know. Hi, Angela.
Hi, everybody. Angelo Sands, 7348 East Country Club Boulevard, Boca, 33487. What I'd like to do is to read a letter that I sent to Beach and Park 10 days ago. And then I also presented the letter at the city council meeting. This is all based upon me being an eternal optimist, okay? Well, we're working on, getting this project completed, meaning the course. I think we gotta even look past that. I'll read you the letter. Over the last couple of months, I've noticed our conversations concerning Boca National project has turned into discussion only about the golf course. I think it's time to remember that this project originally was also an attempt to revitalize an entire neighborhood. I moved here in 2004, and since then, I've seen the closing of our executive course in 2005 and the closing of Ocean Breeze in 2016. These closings created a negative impact on the property value of the entire neighborhood. Our neighborhoods have made Boca Raton the great city it is, but the greatest requires constant maintenance. Bottom line, I see the creation of Boca National as a twofold vehicle. One is to build a first-class golf course in a first-class city. It would also have a huge positive impact on the entire community and the entire city of Boca Raton. Those of you who know where I live also know I'm almost daily out there working to make our home more curb appealing. Thus, I'm constantly having conversations with our residents. I have brought up an idea that everyone I've talked to likes, and I hope so do you. When the community was created, it was called Boca Chica, and the golf course was also called Boca Chica. My suggestion is rename this community Boca National. This creates a whole new vision for our community. I can visualize the day that you all, sitting up there, cut the ribbon to open Boca National Golf Course. You also cut the ribbon for the new Boca National community. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, I introduced this to City Council. It was kind of funny. I had some looks. Some said it was kind of controversial. And I said, that's okay, I'm retired. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, this project is going to happen. You know, there's been some concerns and such. Yeah, this thing is difficult, but there's two huge advantages that I see right here. I'm looking at a beach and park district where their only concern is beach and parks, recreation. Okay. That singular interest is going to work well for us in the long run. The other thing I see, is a guy over there called Bob Tosti, 41 years doing these kind of projects. I just can't even imagine 41 years doing anything. Having somebody with that much experience, knowledge, wisdom, knowing how to get things done, is just unbelievable. There's probably not a dozen people in the United States that have that kind of experience and know how to get things done. And so, again, I am 100% sold on the project. I know that all of you there are sold on it. I know this is going to happen because of all of your expertise, all of your knowledge, and everything you have done and worked for this project. And so I'm just here to say, just keep on, keep it on. I know it's difficult, but you guys can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela.
Hello, testing, 1, 2, 3.
I thought it was me.
Testing, testing. Testing. Stand back. I'll stand back. Maybe that helps. Testing. Okay. For the record, Robert Duque, 5351 Northwest 3rd Terrace, Boca Raton, Florida. Coincidentally, I saw a letter that George Brown, I guess, sent to Brianne at the last workshop meeting. And there were some things on here that I was kind of thinking about talking about as well. One of the things that was on here about kind of went well with the last response to the city, in which the district asked for $10 million as, I guess, a part of the $65 million they'll get from the golf course. I know that the Park District has spent a lot of money on, the Beach and Park District has spent a lot of money on city-owned land, such as Dorothy Park, as well as, you know, over $10 million, over $13 million to develop that land, as well as paying for the maintenance. Maybe the city may want to consider a similar type of agreement, in which case they would help pay in an interlocal agreement for the some of the development cost of the golf course, since they're going to get somewhat of a windfall with that particular item, as well as help with some of the maintenance costs, like the Beach and Park District does already with some of the city-owned land, such as the Holy Park. So again, that's just my thought. You already have the agreements going the other way, in which you're paying for maintenance and development on their properties. Maybe they can help on the opposite direction. Another issue that was talked about in here was that the city was not interested in abandoning Jeffrey Street down past where it is now. And I can tell you it doesn't affect me, but after the last meeting, I did see the proposal for the maintenance facility, which will have a big area for trucks to turn around in. Trucks might be backing up. That will be behind some condos. If there are trucks backing up at different hours of the night or different hours of the day with the beep, beep, beep going, those people are going to be impacted. You may not hear it before they design it, before you build it, but if that property, the maintenance facility, was a little bit further south in that area where the Jeffrey Street goes through, it might make it more palatable to those impacted residents. Just something to be thinking about ahead of time. Again, you don't want to have to build something and then find out afterwards that it's going to cause major ruckus with some of the neighbors in that particular area. But again, I was also very happy to see the last meeting that you had detailed drawings on that maintenance facility. I can tell you that I was involved during the EPA investigation of the current old maintenance facility, and the best practices out there were not being utilized, which are certainly planned, as indicated by the drawings and details there. So I was very happy to see the plans for the maintenance facility, and I'm looking forward to seeing more plans. Also, since the last meeting, I've attended a couple of different charitable golf outings. Golf is a very big charity fundraiser for most communities, as I'm sure it is in the city. And typically, a golf course will fill up for a charity, whether it be the Chamber of Commerce or the March of Dimes or the American Heart Association, or whatever the benefit might be. There's typically about 140 to 150 golfers that participate in these events. You probably throw another 10 to 20 volunteers that work at the events. So you have about 150 to 160 people that typically want to go to a luncheon, a dinner after the actual event. So it's going to be important to have a clubhouse facility that will hold that type of crowd, so that you can have and host those type of events at this golf course. I don't know what the details are. We haven't seen any other drawings, but hopefully, you know, a room that would hold that, and even if it's either catering or the food is on premises, that have to have a kitchen to do that. Maybe we call that Art's 19th hole, or you know, the Mulligans of Boca. But at any rate, we just make sure it's big enough to hold the facility for the charity events that will certainly be held at the course. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Decay. Who else would like to speak?
My name is Harold Chapman, 6200 Northwest 2nd Avenue, president of Keep Out from Boca. I represent almost 1,000 residents that live in Boca Raton, not really just golfers. You know, I thought we'd be through this much longer, much earlier. You know, it seemed like we're still beating the drum and trying to get forward. It's a very difficult project. In the beginning, we basically made a decision, or basically sort out the party that we thought could do the best job and get this golf course running, and it was the Beach and Parks. Looking at all the facilities and all the things that you've done, okay, it's just amazing. And we thought that, if anything, you were the people that we wanted to do this project. There seems to be a turning point right now. I don't understand the city. I really don't at all. All they do is chastise and criticize. They keep on going back to the $24 million, which is just stupid. If it wasn't for the residents of Boca Chica and enforcing and spending almost maybe $15,000 with lawyers to enforce the deed restriction, you wouldn't have this property for $24 million. The problem comes in is when Lennar was basically took over the property, there was a choice: either try and enforce the deed restrictions and let Lennar know that we weren't going away, which we did do. The second thing is Lennar grabbed the property. Okay, the problem comes in is that even though Lennar had the property, the chances of Lennar swaying the people was very good. because most of the condominiums that are there need major repairs. If Lennar was to go down and owe each condominium association $500,000, you wouldn't have this property. They would have sold out. They really would have, because each one of the condos had so much work to be done. That's water under the bridge. The one good thing, everyone's going to be positive. First of all, we have the land. It's going to be green. It's not going to be a 1,000 homes, because that's what Lennar was going to build on it. And now we have to move from there. This project, basically, I think it's a long-term project. I don't, all of a sudden, it seems to be it's an emergency, got to get it done, got to get it done. It doesn't have to be that much. You can do it in pieces, you can do it in any way you want, you know? But I think that you have to really think of this project, and it would be a fantastic thing for the beach and parks. I don't think the city has a vision as great as you people do. And I think that if you look at all the aspects of it and what you want to do here, they all mean something at the end result. You know, you need to spend the money if you're going to make something beautiful. It's $23, $24 million the price. I don't know. Maybe somebody has to sharpen the pencil. Okay, but it's a doable thing. But you can't cut back to a point where you don't enthuse or want anybody to come to the golf course. And you're not going to get golf for $25 a piece. And the city, when we met with the mayor, she said she wanted nothing to do with golf courses anymore. And that golf course is going to be sold regardless. The only thing you people did was guarantee the golf course to be in the city. You know, and I had to commend you on it. And I have to thank you for struggling through this all these years, not even months. All right, thank you.
Thanks for sticking with us, Mr. Jaffe. Michelle?
Michelle Peel, I'm still supposed to my address, 7391 Northeast 8th Court, Boca Raton. Good evening. I just want to give you a few updates, not really golf related. At the last district meeting, I was pleased to be able to tell you that Friends would pledge $500,000 to support making the tower at Gumbo Limbo ADA accessible through fundraising and with the help of a significant donor. The progress so far is that we've met further with the donor to develop the Save the Tower fundraising campaign details and expect to roll it out in the next few weeks, pending having a memorandum of understanding in place with the district. And I believe there might be some city involvement in that, but I'm going to be meeting with Brianne on those details. She supplied a draft MOU earlier today, so we'll be discussing that internally with Brianne. So that's progress on the tower. Master plan update, master plan for Gumbo Limbo. You may have heard that the estimate that came back from the EDSA on the Gumbo Limbo master plan concept design is still too high, and we totally agree with that. Friends has been going through that estimate along with the latest phasing plan, and we've come up with some concrete suggestions for adjustments that will reduce costs significantly and still achieve the core intentions of the mission in a quality fashion. We feel that by delaying some items, reducing sizes, simplifying finishes, we can bring that number down significantly. So I look forward to bringing those ideas to Michael Calvert. He and I talked about getting together and his team soon so we can continue to work together on Gumbo Limbo for the next generation. And lastly, I'd like to leave you with a thought as you consider your decisions regarding Boca National. I'm not sure how many people a year golf serves at this, or golfers are served at the city's municipal court, but I do know that Gumbo Limbo serves 200,000 people a year. And somewhere between 25,000 and 30,000 of those are local residents. And that doesn't count their guests and family who they bring along. The others are visitors contributing to the local economy. At the current scale of the Boca National project, I'm afraid it will tie up the district's money in golf and fear that other projects that serve our community may never happen or be delayed by years and years. So please don't forget to take care of the property that was the original reason for the formation of this body, the district, and that is Red Reef Park and Gumbo Limbo Nature Center. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Good afternoon. Earl Starkov, 2385 Northwest Executive Center Drive, 33431. The topic today is the upcoming joint meeting. And I'd like to offer an approach for the district and the city just to move the project forward together. I'm not taking a position on any of the points that I'm about to make. I'm just offering a process that, if followed, may get the project moving and completed over a period of time. I certainly think what everybody else said, from Michelle to Bob and so on, it's all part of this bundle. Building Boca National is going to take several joint meetings just to get through the mileposts of planning to execute this project. For each meeting, I think the only way to achieve that is to have a tightly focused agenda just for the decisions that must be made. Too often, things just sort of wander around into all kinds of things that don't need to be decided at that time. Positions get taken. It's so hypothetical because all the information isn't in yet. Most of the decisions that both bodies are going through are going to end up being either strategic or tactical decisions to get through the planning stage. The operational decisions will fall from that at the end of the process. So that if you focus the agenda tightly at each meeting, you'll have a very good idea of where you agree on those specific items to get past the milepost and where you differ. And it can help you focus on what you need to do, both parties, to resolve your differences. Particularly in the area of third parties and coming up for this next meeting, the first joint meeting. I think there's only one tactical imperative that needs to be resolved at this time. Both bodies have said they're committed to Golf and Boca. It's how do we get there? The only way you're going to be able to get there, in my opinion, is to strictly focus on getting a design approved. You folks have spent hundreds of hours each on finding experts. Experts have gone through public hearings on all of this. There are still outstanding 2 or 3 issues. Is there a design that the city wants to approve? That's a fair question. They've looked at it. If there's not a design they want to approve, where don't they approve it? This is also a fair question for both sides to know. And I'm thinking specifically of golf course on the east side or the west side of Boca Raton Boulevard. Air it out. What do the design professionals, just like you hire an architect for your home, you can't design and build a house. There's no true expertise, no offense to all my friends, on either body that really knows how to design a golf course, is why you brought in outside people. So air out and get some expert advice, even if it's not finalized at that meeting, but get your approach decided on how to resolve that design difference. And the second one is the Jeffrey Street issue. There's already been some of the paperwork from traffic experts that it's impractical to consider for the future that Jeffrey Street will be a crossover. I don't know the answer to that, but I think that you need to have traffic studies or resolve what the FEC position is going to be. Get that done. Know where you're going to put the clubhouse. Know where you may move the maintenance facility. If you can get, even if you don't get to resolution at the joint meeting, if you resolve, this is how we're going to resolve those last couple of issues. That's a big step forward. If you make that step forward, have approval of a design, which may take another meeting, incremental steps. Once the design is approved, remember, it's a draft. That draft then is ready for value engineering. It's exactly what we did as a community to build the Hornwood. Started out with a $24 million estimate, scaled it back a little bit in terms of what the commission and the city could figure out for themselves, had an agreed upon design, and went to bid. Actually, we went to value engineering first to cut back more on the design. So in this process, go get a draft design approved by your 2 bodies, go then to value engineering, reconvene. You're not strangers. If you're both agreement that these value engineering decisions, and there may be some decisions to be made, come up with a final design. Then you can go to bid. Until you go to bid, and until you bid the entire project, not bits and pieces of it, you don't know what your costs are. So for the upcoming meeting, just focus on that. Then, following that value engineering, there will be more joint meetings with narrow decisions. You're going to need to decide, once you get your costs together, what are our financing options? We're throwing all kinds of $10 million, $28 million, $40 million numbers are throwing all over the place. Conjecture. Get your bids in on the entire project, and then both bodies meet on those bids and make some decisions. Now, the decisions may not be anything that we see here today. There are financing options. Is this something that's going to be jointly funded by the city and the district like the first purchases? Is the city going to grant the money from the municipal course? Is the city going to acquire Ocean Strand as part of that exchange? Have you got an appraisal in yet so they can even have a value on it? Nobody knows this, and you shouldn't be making decisions without good information. And once you do that, meet frequently. Just bite off what you can chew. There are other options available that the district may have. But you have private funding options. Can you go out for loan independently? When this park was purchased from private, the district raised taxes, like 10 or 15%, to pay for the acquisition. I'm not suggesting, I'm not taking positions. I'm saying you don't know how much you're trying to achieve, so you don't know what your strategic and tactical objectives are to achieve that funding. Then, when you see what all of that adds up to, you can start making decisions on what's our timeline? Do we need to do this in phases? What else steps forward during this time frame? Those types of incremental decisions will get this project done sooner rather than later. And it's also, in my opinion, the best way for the two bodies to work collaboratively, focused on narrow things and not broad issues that get it confused. So I hope that you appreciate one. I didn't take a 25-minute presentation for a change. I used up all those minutes a year ago. But more seriously, take a narrow approach, please. Incremental decisions where you can have real facts, address those facts, and I would suggest that if it starts wandering off into other discussions at the joint meeting, stop that discussion. Stay focused on what you can achieve in a year, in an hour meeting, hour and a half, get public requests, and then resolve the meeting to go forward to the next step. So thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Points well taken. Would anyone else like to speak? No one else? Eric?
Hello there, Barry Tetro, 3088 Northwest 27th Avenue, Boca. We're at a real crossroads right here for this upcoming meeting, which has been about a year overdue, which probably should have been happening more often than it has, as this project has been grinding with no ability to move forward. There's no financing to move forward. The city has not approved of the design, stating that it's very, very expensive. And I think we need to step back. Oh, by the way, the city is considering extension offers by GL to postpone the closure of our course from this August, 3 months from now, which, as it stands, without any further amendments, will happen. And that can't happen. And I think the city is pretty much open to postponing the sale in order for everyone to get their stuff together and get this thing off the ground, find out who's paying for what, who's going to run this thing, And how is it that a municipal course is gonna cost $28 million? When the RFPs went out, and when we were talking about it early on, this course was gonna be something of a national drawing point. People actually suggest that it could be the host of a professional golf tour event. It's ludicrous. But the joint meeting is coming up. Everyone needs to get together and find out where this is going, because even if they get a 2-year extension, the way it goes now, we'll be dragging on for another 2 years if we only meet in a joint session once per year. Communication is the key. Face-to-face confrontation, who's paying for what, out of what, and who's going to control the development of this course. This is going to be a municipal course. This is not going to be, and they should never should have adopted the name of Boca National. That is assuming a lot more than we can provide as taxpayers. We need a nice golf course. We need a separate place for driving range, for a learning facility, short course. If you go in there and you let them talk you into, we're gonna pay for an 18-hole golf course, and we'll pay for it, move out of the way, we'll deal with it, we're gonna come up with nothing. Because 18 holes cannot possibly provide for the revenue needed to sustain the incredible debt that has already been placed. A debt that's gonna have to be reckoned with going forward just to provide construction costs. There's no shovel in the dirt yet. And yet this has been going on for over a year. We got a world-class architect who's done what we wanted, a world-class design, a world-class facility, and it would be, but at what cost? And how long is it going to take to maintain it, to build it? Who's going to maintain it up to those kind of standards? We need to know what the heck we're going to do. I'm tired of hearing world-class. I'm tired of hearing hosting PGA events. We need a municipal golf course, a nice one. We don't need a palace. I know Boca sees themselves as palatial people. It's a wonderful city. I agree with that. We don't have the money to pay for the kind of golf course that is now envisioned. We need to step back, take another look, and see how we can get this thing done at a reasonable cost that will provide our golfers a good municipal, taxpayer-funded golf course that we can be proud of. We don't need world class. We don't need it. We're going to need an extension, which the city is, I think, seriously considering, to keep the darn thing open for 2 years, 1 or 2 years, with the help of GL, who's been very, very accommodating about it. And those things need to be hashed out at our next meeting. And we need a new place to go, because this is headed towards failure. Monetarily, financially, every which way. And if you don't get this thing off the ground, a 2-year extension is not going to mean much. Because now is the time. Now is the time to get your heads together with the city, who you want to help finance it. They've now earmarked the $65 million, as far as I know. But you know, I'm frustrated. This needs to go forward. There needs to be communication more than once a year between the two governing bodies. We need to put a full court press on this, and this starts next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Would anyone else like to speak? Okay, hearing none, we now close public requests. We'd like to have the approval of the regular meetings board minutes from May 6th. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes from May 6th, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes, Joanne. We have changed the agenda a little bit. We're going to have the approval of our payroll and invoices. And I do believe we have a revised sheet.
Commissioners, you should have a revised sheet in your agenda backup, so it includes 3 items at the end. I'm going to recommend approval of the minutes, but I'd like to pull one out just for discussion or council review later. And specifically on your agenda list, there is one for Callaway and Price, and it's for $2,200. I'd just like to give the opportunity to council to look at the agreement with it. That $2,200 is for deposition services. And without really looking at the agreement that we run with Callaway and Price, and a couple things. One is there's a contractual rate to be agreed to it. Number 2, it does set a bit of a precedence if anyone gets subpoenaed, do we pay them for their services? I think just give Jake and Sam an opportunity to take a look at that first before we approve it. So I'll bring it forward at the next minutes after review. So the total I'm recommending for approval is adjusted, and it's $5,224,623.09. And that includes 4 invoices payable to the city for January, December, November, and October.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor of accepting the $5,224,623.09, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. And Mr. Gorin, will you go over that at Mr. Ernst's request?
I will. I've not seen the invoice except for this evening, and I'll be happy to look at the letter of engagement or other backup that would support both the hourly rate and the legal obligation of the contractual otherwise to pay. Happy with that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We now come to our regular business, which is the joint meeting on May 28th and the Boca National Partnership open discussion. We are very lucky to have Mr. Fazio here to answer any questions that you may have, commissioners, about this. And you should have all received some revised projections for the construction costs and to do it in phases. Do you all have that? Just for the public's edification, we had a letter from the city and they were asking for some specifics that they would like to have clarified possibly by the time we go to the joint meeting next week. Commissioners, at your pleasure, would you care to go through all of those points? Don't all jump in.
This is from the forwarded email, or it's a list of 10 things, is that what it is?
Yes, yes. The first one is the terms of the partnership. The second is the specifics of the partnership, leadership, and financial assistance, the district's financial contribution. Do we want to relinquish the project? Can we build without a millage increase? The abandonment of Jeffrey Street, traffic issues, and the possibility of tournaments at the course. If I may, the first, on number 8, which is the abandonment of Jeffrey Street, I did contact the FEC, and the answer to my question about is it a possibility that they would allow a railroad crossing there, the answer from Mr. Ledoux at the FEC is a crossing is not possible. FEC is not in favor of any new crossings. So.
I have one question on that. What if the city decided to close a different crossing and open that one? Would that be something that would be approved?
They would not approve.
Even if a different crossing was closed?
This was according to Mr. Ledoux.
Did you get documentation? Just curious.
What kind of
Just showing the
document?
city that they said that.
I've got an email right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just providing documentation to the city,
Yeah.
showing that.
Yes. Mr. Gordon, did you want to weigh in on that?
No,
Okay.
President, thank you.
So let's start with the terms of the partnership. Are you interested in doing a partnership, or would you prefer to keep this project as a district-only partnership? Mr. Ernst?
Well, I could put on the spot. I think it'll go faster and it'll go quicker with the partnership, particularly when that means with funding. But the decision itself, you know, there's a bunch of things. It's not, we can't just say how this is going to work. I think from that, can I start over from the council meeting rather than go through these questions like this and just give a framework of what I think might work?
Okay.
From the council meeting, I got a lot of information that basically said, yes, no on Jeffrey Street. I still think that needs worthy of investigating further, but make a decision and be done with it. But it doesn't mean you can't use the area and be done with it. I think the biggest thing that I took away from it was they're interested in prioritizing this. They're interested in making 18 holes, and they have the resources to facilitate it. But I think they do want to participate. The mayor said that he wasn't sure if it was $1 to $28 million, but they want to participate in it. So somehow or another, we need to work towards that. One of the things that I think they have discomfort with, and I think we all had some angst with, is the purchase price of it, the $28 million. You know, and I looked to Nami there saying, the $28 million, when we started this project,
I believe it was 24.
construction, total project. Yeah, it's $28 million is a huge capital investment for any of us. And so the city naturally is questioning that amount and seeing how can they value engineer it down, what can they make it different. I think the one thing that gives us all angst here is we're not looking to recreate Boca Muni, which is out east. It's a nice course, but it's not what we want. We want something nicer because it should be something nicer, but is it really 28 million? And that's where we struggle with it. So I think we can do as Earl says, narrow some of these decisions down. And if it's about the financing of things, focus on a smaller track. So let's focus on the 18 holes. But if we, to validate that price and do the value engineering part of it, I would suggest that we get a third-party operator to give, it will give the city comfort and it will validate us that what we're doing with our construction team is exactly what we want and we've done our best. And so I think that would be a good thing to do. When I went to that NRPA conference, I talked to a number of Gallup professionals, and as Aaron has suggested at prior meetings, they said, get your operator on board early. And they were very adamant that different people I spoke to thought that was an important decision. Not that the Fazio team is not gonna do something, but there's some things operationally you just gotta be sure you're doing right. And I think if you get this consultant on board with the city paying for it, report it to the city, it'll either validate what we're doing, or it will say, here, we're gonna do our value engineering now, and we're gonna be done with it. And we're gonna say, okay, we're either doing a phased approach, or we're doing it all at once. Some things we don't know. We don't know what the clubhouse is gonna be, but I don't think we have to decide on that now. I think we need to get going on the 18 holes. And it would be preferable to me that the city is in a better position to either fund it or to enable us to. The other option is us to go it alone. And my fear of going it alone, not that we can't finance 15 million, I think we can easily do that. It's just gonna take a long time. And as you've seen from the school district's building of a school over here right off of Military Trail, it went rapidly. And it went rapidly because they had the full support of the city. And we need that full support for this community to get Boca Tifa's golf course converted into Boca National. And I think we really want to have that to make it work.
Thank you. Aaron?
Well,
Push the button. Yeah, sorry.
I agree with Fred on I thought it was a partnership. I think when I watched the city council meeting, I agreed with a lot of what they said. I think in terms of project management, they have a lot more experience with project management doing projects than we do. We don't have the staff. We don't have the experience to get a project like this done on time and done within budget. The last two projects that we've had have both come in way over budget. And I don't know, I think it's something that we should discuss, whether maybe they should take over the construction part of it. I think in terms of what our job is as the beach and park, we got the green space. We got it. We're paying for it, right? But I don't think our job is to construct the golf course. And I think we could, but financially, I don't think we're in a very good position to do that. We'd be lacking in a lot of other areas, especially the capital projects. We wouldn't be able to do anything next year. We wouldn't be able to save for Gumbo Limbo. Correct me if I'm wrong. Stand up and holler if you want to. But I think if we had to take financing, if we had to borrow more money in this, we'd be putting ourselves in a really bad position. And I think we need to look at getting this done for the residents. We need to put egos aside and cast everything aside and just think what's best for the community is getting those 18 holes done, right? And I think just a lot of, pardon my French, but crap has gotten in the way. And I think the biggest thing is the numbers. We can't afford it. I wouldn't feel comfortable taking out a loan for more money. And I want to reassure Mr. Singer, Scott Singer, that Mayor Singer, that we definitely never thought of not paying back that the loan that they took out for us to purchase the west side. We would always pay that back. But I think it's something worth discussing amongst us, out in the public. I know a lot of people have been meeting with city council members and having discussions and things like that. I know Art's met with some city council members. So I'm wondering what you all think of that.
Okay, Steve? Thank you, Aaron.
I think, to be very frank, I don't think any of us sitting on the board walked into this imagining that the cost to construct this course was going to be $28 million. For myself, I was thinking 14, 16, maybe 18 million. As it is, just that number plus the purchase cost would have strapped us. Add on another 10 or 12 or 14 million dollars, and we're looking at becoming the Greater Boca Raton Golf Financing District. And as much as I want this golf course to be done, and I think we owe it to the residents of Beach and Park District to get it done and get it done right, we also have other responsibilities. Gumbo Limbo, the tennis courts at Patch Reef, replacing the Rutherford Center or renovating it, DeHornley Phase 2. There are a lot of other things that need to be taken care of. And I'd love to be all things to all people. But the bottom line is we're going to need city participation. The one thing I worry about with city participation is that they're going to want to extract a pound of flesh. I have no problem with a half a pound of flesh, but a pound of flesh, what is it going to be? In watching the workshop, Mayor Singer indicated, yeah, they want to help us out financially, but we're going to have to find other sources. Now, those other sources could be raising the millage rate, taking out another loan, and neither of those two options are ones that I'm comfortable with. So we have a lot to talk about with the city, but the bottom line is the best option is a partnership with the city. And I think we need to get more than just the 18 holes done. My biggest fear is that we get the 18 holes done, and then all of a sudden the money dries up. We get hit with a hurricane. My late mother-in-law rises from the dead. Something stops it, and now we're sitting with 18 holes, and nothing else is being done. No driving range, no learning academy, no par 3. And these, to me, are all things that are important in making this golf course a success. I don't want a reprise of Boca Muni. I want a Boca National that will stand on its own. And I think we owe it to the community, and I think the city also owes it to the community.
Yeah, like everyone else, I watched the council workshop and made a lot of notes, noted a lot of disinformation that may have been mentioned. The fact of the matter, we never asked the city to take over the course, and I think that was kind of the general discussion of the evening was should they or can they or will they take over the golf course. I have been emphatic with the council members that I've spoken to that that was not our first choice. The first ask that we had of the city, according to the ILA agreement, was to approve the design. That was the only thing, I think. Was there anything else in there, Sam, other than approving the design? I didn't get a chance to review that, but we have not had anything but obstacles put in the way of getting that design. Do you have an answer, Sam?
I can respond real quickly, Madam Chair. Under paragraph 7 of the interlocal agreement, the language is consistent with your concept, which says the planning, design, and development of the property shall be the complete responsibility of the district. And the funding of all costs relating to said planning, design, and construction shall be paid by the district. Prior to the district finalizing any plan for improvement of property and any amendments thereto, hereafter referred to as the improvement plan, and or issuing or approving any request for a proposal for the planning, design, or construction of improvements to the property, the district shall provide a publicly noticed opportunity for members of the public to receive information on such proposal plan and to present input and comments on such proposed plan and or request for proposals. Additionally, the city shall be provided the opportunity to, prior to approval by the district, to review, comment on, and approve any improvement plan, which approval shall not be unreasonably withheld. And lastly, the district agrees that it shall not implement any improvement plan or any part thereof unless the above described opportunity for the public to receive information and present input and comments has been provided, and the improvement plan has been previously approved by the city in writing, etc. So you're not inappropriate in your commentary.
So in our effort to respond to that, it's like in my business, when I'm filling out an application for the client, if the answer is yes, then I've got more answers that I've got to obtain. And if I continue to get, when I provide that data, there may be more answers that my underwriter is asking for. And I kind of feel like that's where we've been. I don't discount the fact that the financial part of this component is extremely important. And I do have in mind, I was telling one of the council members today, I do have an ask in mind that would help us get this project on. Going through the 10 questions that the city council had come back and asked, that's in addition to the 21 pages of questions we had had previously, which I think in the interest of full disclosure, I'm glad they asked those questions, and I'm glad we got those answers to them. It compelled us to take a close look at the financial components of this golf course and made us realize that if we borrowed the money to finish the project, that we're going to be strapped to do the other components that we have in our park system, which I don't think any of us wants to step back from what we promised the community, the level of service in our parks and the way our parks look. They're special, and we want to keep them that way. So the question is, what would the terms of, first question is that they're not approved prepared to approve the design without knowing what the terms of the proposed partnership will be. I had in mind those terms, but like somebody said, how do I come up with those terms without some dialogue in a public meeting? And what terms are you actually looking for? I mean, it's, I could say, here's the things I'd like to hear from you and what you would agree to. But then I'm going to be prepared to get 4 or 5 more questions asked about why I use those the suggestions. We do need a partnership. What is that partnership going to look like? I would like to think that the city would provide a grant for us to get a major component of this project done. I have a figure in mind. What I'd like to see is an independent operator of that golf course. We're not in the golf business, and there's no way that we could run that. I think also that as far as day-to-day operations, maybe Aaron is correct. That we need to have somebody, a golf course superintendent. Although I hear conflicting information from Wayne that says, it's not time to do that. I think we're all a little bit confused since we've never done a golf course. But one of the concerns that I hear coming is that your projects are over budget, and I want to take a moment to explain 1 or 2 of those over budget items that seems to be coming back at us. Is that when we did the science playground, one thing we tried to do is preserve the general nature and appearance and the historical value of that facility. And in retrospect, I think we should have bulldozed it down and started over, because in the process, we had a lot of unknowns that we had not anticipated, that we had to do workarounds that cost that budget overrun. This facility here, on paper, we're over budget by maybe it's $1 million, but of that $1,750,000 is for the demolition of the property over at Boca National. The other that we have are things that code enforcement, the fire department, and the other things that were not included in our drawings that we had to go back and take care of. I think given our perspective in working on projects like Spanish River Athletic Facilities, that was a project that was handed over to us by the city to finish. We were given 60% of the drawings and said, here, would you mind finishing this project? The amount of the project that the city told us was going to run was going to be $20 million plus or minus. I think it was on the plus side. We did that, value engineered it, and got a bid for $10.5 million for that project. With design errors that had been omitted from the construction drawings, mostly underground utilities, we ended up finishing that project at $14 million. And I don't think there's a finer project in South Florida that can match what we have over at Spanish River Facilities. That's a project that we built, folks. Hatchery Park is another park that the city built. The Beach and Parks District constructed. I was looking further than our old homes over at Sugar Sand Park. We did that park in phases. The Beach and Parks District completed that project on time. I don't remember what the budget was because we did it in phases. But I wanted to dispel the rumor that we're not capable of getting this construction job done, because I believe we are. The city is going to have to be our financial partner in this for sure. And I believe that with a grant of some significance, would be able to get the park, the golf course constructed, certainly the 18 holes. I do believe that it's necessary that we complete both sides of this project, because I don't know about golfers that may be in the audience, but I have a hard time going out and walking up to the tee and hitting the golf ball without stretching out and hitting from a driving range. Now, Barry's a lot better at that than I am. But for the first 9 holes, I'd be warming up. And that's not the way I like to play golf. I want to see the project completed. I do think that Earl is correct. I think that we do need to have the design approved. We do need to value engineer it. We do need to take smaller bites of this apple with the city council. We do need to meet regularly in order to discuss our options moving forward. And I think without that, I mean, I could go through these questions here, and I spent Sunday afternoon reflecting on the questions. The only one I really knew for sure the answer to was, does the district want the city to take over the project? And my answer was emphatically no. I do believe we can manage the project. I don't have any idea about the millage rate. That's when other subject has come up, of whether or not we're going to raise our millage rate. I hope not. That was never our intention, and we have never considered that in order to get this project done. My feeling is that with the city's assistance and a partnership of yet undescribed terms, we'll be able to get this golf course done. I know I watched this council, and I know there's two options with the GL Homes. One is an automatic extension for 1 year. I think that it was going to be an easy accommodation for GL Homes. I think there's another option that would extend it out further, if I'm not correct, but that was not met with a great deal of enthusiasm by the GL representative. But for sure, a year's extension from the August closing date, I think, is in the works. Is that not correct, sir?
That is correct.
Okay. I really would like to see this project as a joint partnership with the city. I think for their investment in this project, I mean, we've been a very good partner with the city over the years in funding the community recreation needs. The local share, we agreed several years ago to do 50% of each, the local share of the beach renourishment of the city. That was something that we had not done in the past. We participated only on the beachfront at Red Reef Park. We have been very good financial partners to the district and provided great great recreational resources to the community. I think with the city's participation financially with a grant and somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 million, I believe we can get this project up and moving. So if you're asking me what is the ask, that's my ask. Give me some financial help, and we'll get this project moving. We have the know-how, the will, and the energy to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. I had a call with Mr. George Brown from the city, and he flat out asked what I thought about them taking over the project and financing it. Well, I thought, oh great, no more worries. This isn't about us. This is about you. And everything I've heard from the community is, don't turn it over. Don't, we want you to do this. We want you to do this with the financial help of the city, of course. And I think it should be a financial partnership, but I do think that the district, with the help of our designers, can accomplish this. And with the support of the public coming back to the city and saying, this is what we want too. This is important to us. Now there's an option that has been thrown out to me, and I'm going to turn the gavel over to Mr. Rollins. It's a little unusual.
It's a temporary assignment.
It's a temporary thing, just.
Meeting adjourned.
Commissioners, I'd like to make a motion to authorize Commissioner Rollins, along with the district's interim executive director, the district council, the office, the golf course design consultant, and any other professionals as the district's board may deem appropriate, to meet with the city of Boca Raton in an effort to negotiate the terms of an agreeable and mutually beneficial partnership or other type of relationship for the construction and future operation of the golf facility to be located at Ocean Breeze, also known as Boca National Golf Course. The terms of any agreement that may be reached shall be presented to the district board for further consideration. In other words, it's not going to be something that is done behind closed doors. This would be an advertised meeting. You all can be there. But for us to start to come to some of these terms, we can't seem to get 10 minds all together to hash out some of these points that the city wants to have clarified. So there is a motion on the floor.
Second.
Discussion.
Can I just ask, understand a little bit more? I mean, we're discussing.
Okay. So what exactly are you gonna do? I mean, someone has to go talk to them. I'm fine with whether it's any one of us go talk to them, you know, whoever you need to bring with you to do that. You're gonna structure some kind of interlocal agreement with the terms of it. Is that the goal?
Not necessarily the interlocal agreement, but the, just how we want to accomplish this instead of waiting, to have a joint meeting with 10 different people and all the staff. It just doesn't seem to be getting done. I mean, I'm not saying don't have the meeting next Tuesday, but to hash out some of the final points of who's paying for what, who's managing, how we're going to accomplish it, and see where we can go from there.
So it'd be Bob, Brian, or Wayne, I guess, Wayne,
Wayne or Tom or both.
and our council.
And if we wanted to have Mr. Koski on it, and anybody that the city, city staff and a council person, it wouldn't, but like I said, it would be an advertised meeting, so it's not behind closed doors. There's nothing that we're keeping from the public.
And then from Parks and Rec, I guess, Michael.
Commissioner Mike, please.
Michael. Parks and Rec would be there too.
It's whoever the city deems they want to have there.
Okay. But we couldn't go, right, because of sunshine.
Well, if I may, to the chair, if I can. The motion, as I hear it from the chair, opens up a door of discussion regarding this whole delegation of authority. You're delegating, if you approve this motion this evening, you'll effectively be delegating to Commissioner Rollins your authority to, in fact, begin the conversation that's been discussed by each of you in some form or fashion tonight. To have that conversation, it comes with that portfolio. So to the extent that the motion also includes two things, it's a public meeting, because when you delegate to a member meeting with another public body, you open the door for the public having a right of access legally under the statute, under chapter 36. Second part of which is that any decisions of any kind that would come from that conversation would need to be ratified or reviewed by the full board, the full commission, under any circumstance. The factor is that as a public entity, you don't have the luxury of meeting in private, as private business does, unless you're in litigation or labor negotiations or looking at the security of public buildings where there's limited exceptions to the sunshine law. So by delegating to one, you're giving one person some inherent authority to open up the door of discussion within certain parameters. The 10 questions, which I've also read, by the way, and I've also listened to the council meeting that occurred, and I've listened pretty carefully and took some notes as well. To the extent that this option and opportunity allows for there to be this exchange, it is a legal option that you can exercise by motion if you so chose. The other option is to negotiate as a full body along with the city council, which creates its own challenges. It's not to suggest the public in any way, shape, or form will be bridged with their rights. That's not the issue. It would be a posted public meeting to the extent that there would be a meeting of one or more. To the extent that you can then, if you pass this motion this evening, provide or offer up some parameters of what the discussion could be of the delegated member, that would be very useful to this ultimate motion. I'm happy to answer questions. This is not an uncommon practice. Oftentimes when you have a membership of 5 or 7 or 9 or whatever the number is, it's not uncommon to have a member of the delegated body to have that discussion, particularly where you have parameters within which to discuss the options and opportunities, which frankly, you need to address in some fashion, or willing to address.
Mr. Gorn, how does this affect our ability to attend? Do we have the ability to attend?
Yes, sir, public meeting, absolutely, but you're not the delegate in this discussion.
Yeah.
You'd have to actually be patient, you'd have to actually sit in some form of the audience and restrain yourself. However, I don't mean that in a negative way, which has its challenges for any number of people. The challenge is that it's a public meeting, but not a public hearing. So there's no public dialogue, people don't get to weigh in about what they should be thinking about. It really is it's a one-on-one discussion, which is the umbrella that covers a public discussion. So the answer is yes, you can sit in the audience, and if you want to, send notes to Bob, you can do that, as a matter of fact, but the note's public. You don't get to hide the information, and the public has a right to know what your note says. You don't get to text the answers to the questions. Basically, you get to talk about what it is. It's a serious exchange. It also, in my view, from my experience, will dictate that it's a serious commitment that the board's making to say, we want to sit down and have a discussion with you about the business points, the finer points that we really can't do in a public forum with all of us together in the same room. It's not to suggest, I'll close with this, that your joint meeting cannot exist or cannot occur, but the way I read the Mr. Brown's email, it seems like the starting point of the conversation is to have some one person having that authority, which I think the motion would otherwise cover.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I did not volunteer for this job, but I'm happy to do it if it will move this project forward. I had not seen the motion until Susie read it, but if that's necessary, and I think something needs to, we need to blow up the wall somewhere, and if this is the first start, and I'm willing to give it a try. If the board, you're not going to make me upset if you vote it down. So,
Commissioner, if I may, and this is consistent with where I think you're traveling. Your good faith offer to delegate a member of this district board to meet with the city is your good faith delegation to a commissioner here to have that conversation. It's not to say the city has a legal obligation to accept that proposal. I say that in good faith as well, although I know that from the standpoint of how the motion was crafted and how you're debating it now, your offer is a good faith to have that discussion, to keep up all conversations and keep all plates spinning at the same time.
Yeah, make one suggestion. I think it's great. Thank you, Bob, for letting me go. My only caveat to it, my suggestion would be to amend it that it's you and whoever you want to go with it. I don't want to name anyone tied up with it. I think you should be able to go over there and have a discussion, just like you normally would, and it's whatever and whoever you want to bring with you.
Sam, does that have to be declared this evening as to who I want to have?
It would be useful just to have a general concept of what you'd like to do. I mean, the motion delegates to one, the power of all five. If you wish to say, if you adopt the motion to say, I'd like to have a lawyer with me, I'd like to have Brianne with me, I'd like to have, the Price Fazio, and whatever the grouping would be, just so the city commission, so the council would know that you have an intention of bringing not a gaggle of people, but a limited number of folks to have the on-site discussion.
Well, clearly, Sam, I want you sitting right beside me.
Left or right, whatever side you
I want Tommy Fazio or Wayne on the other side. Those individuals for sure. And I think as the interim executive director, Brianne should accompany you to that session. Depending upon, and may I amend that at some later time if I want to add to or delete. Is that acceptable?
So long as the volley back to the city, which is your proposal to meet, lets them know who you intend to bring with you so that they know who they're going to bring with them.
Right.
You can't, I know I'm overbearing, forgive me just for a moment. You may limit the number that you choose to bring to the meeting, but that doesn't mean that the city limits who you choose to bring to the meeting. But you can ask that they bring less than X number of people just to keep the confines of the conversation limited to a certain number of people. It's not unfair to ask that question.
All right, thank you. Since I'm still in charge of the meeting, I'd like to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Passed unanimously. Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Chair.
One thing, if I may, Madam Chair, not to have the gavel back, but you have it back legally, is to open the door as to the Wayne part, which is If this motion, which has just passed, indicates the public good faith of this organization to meet with the city and have an on-site conversation with things that matter between the parties, getting a date sooner than later would be very useful, and we can offer up whatever dates work for both parties.
So do we have to decide that tonight?
Not necessarily, because what's going to happen, if I may offer, is when you send this proposal to the city, so the city council will want to weigh in on the decision, because it too needs to make a similar corresponding decision. Not the manager alone, but the council.
Will you be sending that, or will Brianne?
I'll work with Brian to get it done.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bob, for putting yourself out there. You have the history, and I think that knowing the history and your expertise will help move this right along, because we do need to get the design approved, and we've got the new numbers, but we've got to get them to, get them honed, and I think we can do this. So is everybody good with?
So is that going to delay the joint meeting, or we're going separate paths here? I mean, you're gonna have to do a notice period, and it's public, so my preference would be that we don't delay that meeting, but I think we go on two tracks.
Well, as Earl suggested, we could, we do need to go to the joint meeting and get approval of the design. I mean, we can't really do anything else until we've had the approval of the design, so we're going to have to hammer that.
Okay.
Is everybody okay with that?
Madam Chair, again, forgive me for interrupting, but I think the good news typically travels pretty fast. So from the standpoint of what you decide to do this evening will get transited somehow to the city council through its administration. But the formal concept of which would be a letter that we would send on your behalf to indicate the interest in doing this specifically.
Thank you, Sam.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think we can get this letter to the city tomorrow and distribute it to the members of council? And I mean, I'd like nothing better than to have this meeting prior to our joint meeting, if that's possible.
We will
Do we have enough time to do that?
We will make time.
As far as noticing the meeting, what is our requirement?
7 days.
7 days notice?
Yes.
Okay, well, obviously today's Monday.
We have to coordinate with the city staff in the context of posting and all manner of things that require paper district. Therefore, we have the 7 day requirement.
Is that 7 days or 7 business days?
7 days.
Yeah, Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Okay, well,
What can I add though is, I would like to give Brianne the name of an individual who I met there at that conference who does the maintenance and operations of golf courses and offered to do consultation as well as operate the course. But to me, it made a lot of sense to have someone, and I think that will give you, for the city, additional, again, support or denial of what has been designed and presented to us, something to consider. Okay.
Mr. Fazio, could you allay their concerns about this, having somebody like a superintendent on board at this point?
It's not, pardon me, it's not a superintendent. This is a consulting firm that operates one of the largest pool of golf courses, most of them in Florida, and they do both consulting as well as the operations. So I'm not hiring. I'm
Do you have a
suggesting, yes, I do, but I don't want to recommend it here unless.
No, I mean, you wouldn't be recommending, we're just
Yeah.
hearing the name, because some of these companies have gone out of business.
Absolutely. The only reason I'm suggesting it is because I keep hearing over and over the concern about the price tag. And so I don't know if that is the price tag, but I think it will help everyone alleviating the fears to say, once they get into the details, someone who is used to doing that says, this makes sense, or here's where you can do something a little different. I think it will help everyone take off the table so we can get done with the plan. And I agree with you. I'd like to do the whole thing all at once. It's just a huge number. You take out the tunnel for the time being. I do agree with the idea of the tunnel, but that's still a big number relative to everything. So it's validating, that's all. And I think once you validate that, that'll eliminate part of it. It's gonna have to be done anyway prior to the financing.
Sam, would that be something we'd have to do our competitive bid on, to get a consultant to come in and help us?
Depends on what kind of consultant they are. I'm not sure that I really understand what the fabric of that consultancy, but it may be best to consider a potential competitive selection, but we can look at the issue. There may be 10 people who can do the same thing, better than the other 9, yes, I don't know the answer.
I think also some of these, people who run the golf courses, the superintendents of their golf course managers, a lot of them go through the renovations of their own courses. So they have that experience of renovating the golf course and doing the budgets and things like that. The kind of thing that we need, starting at this point, that would be beneficial for us to have right now. But we don't have that information on, you know?
Tom?
So I think it's long-term probably advantageous to have some type of management company running the golf course. I don't necessarily think that their expertise is in these numbers, that we would explain it to them any different than we explain it to you as a group or you individually. I mean, if you take the golf course alone, the 18 holes at $7+ million, and everybody's throwing out 26, there's about 16 line items that constitutes that $7-something million. I'm happy to go through that with you point by point at any time and right now if you'd like. The idea behind it being a world class or putting a number on it is really a fallacy. I mean, and I'll just give you an example. Item number 1 is to remove the existing turf. That's a set cost. I can't downscale that unless you want to leave some of the old grass out there. And literally, I could go through every single line item and explain where the discretionary spending is in that $7-something million budget. When I say the $7 million budget for golf course, I'm specifically speaking of the 18 holes alone, not the other side. And so what I've done, because it's not a bid, and it's actually, you almost want to question putting these numbers out the way that we did, because when we go to bid, they will now, all these contractors will now have access to every one of these numbers. Now, the good news is they're bidding against themselves. They're not bidding against them. How I got these numbers for these 16 items for just the 18 holes is, it's a consolidation of me bidding out 5 other different projects in this area. For example, St. Andrews, which was done a couple years ago. There's different ways that every renovation is not the same way. Sometimes you have existing USGA greens and you only need to take off the top 2 or 3 inches or 4 inches. Sometimes you want to blow up the greens. So my numbers, my unit prices, okay, are based on a collage of all of the information that I've gotten over the last, say, 5 or 7 years. Okay, but that's still that's not a hard bid, but that's probably a fairly accurate bid based on what everybody has done in the past. And when I bid these out, I'm getting 7 or 8, companies to bid each one. So for example, if somebody bid $2, someone bid $3, someone bid $4, I would pick the $3. I would sort of average it out. So the $7 million is the $7-something million. You guys, I get it. I hate to break this to you. You picked a very difficult site because it's in 3 parcels. 3 parcels equal 3 different properties. So you have the additional expense of not managing 1 parcel with your stormwater management, with your dirt work. You've got that 3 different times. You've got that 3 separate occasions. And then you also have to connect them all because like the irrigation has to come across. When you think about, and I'm just giving you a big picture, so I'm kind of doing this randomly, sorry. When you think about not doing anything on the east parcel, that's fine. But if you do anything on the east parcel, you have to do all of the tree clearing. You have to do all the tree moving, relocation, because you have to do all the dirt work because all the storm drain has to work. So that's a comprehensive one. It's not a menu item. So we can definitely do the north and the southwest parcels because those would be complete parcels. They would have to drain. We would have to check, I don't think SNARS has 100% decided, he may be working on it, I haven't been in contact with him, how they're gonna drain. I know a lot of this property drains through the eastmost portion of the property along that drainage easement, that drainage easement thing. So if we're gonna put in a parking lot, that drainage has to go to the stuff that's already improved. The most northern side of the east parcel has a pond, the retention pond, that basically treats all the water. You can't do this without doing that pond. You can't do the driving range without doing the dirt work on the par 3 course. I'm not saying it's you know, there's definitely a savings to break this out, but this is not a normal renovation. Normal renovations, at the minimum, have a pump house, a clubhouse. Are we saving our pump house? Is there any opportunity to save that pump house? If you don't know, the answer is no. There's no opportunity to save the electricity. It's all antiquated.
You should go with Mr. Rollins, let me.
But see, I know I have done for 29, you guys can go back and look at the original proposal. For 25 years, I've done design build, where I've worked with an owner directly, and we've done in-house construction. I know these numbers better than any contractor there is. I'm not bragging. I've done stuff that no architect, no contractor's done. There's no designer or golf course architect that's moved 2.7 million yards in 6 months and built a golf course, which I did as well. So I'm just telling you, these numbers are solid numbers. It's not going to change whether you hire a consultant or not. To tell you the numbers. If you want to hire a consultant to help us with the operational aspect of, you know, what are all the little different entities that you can create little side businesses and do money, and you know how to generate money, and what's the value of not having a clubhouse, or what's the value of having the little programs, 1,000%. And I think we do need to do that. But that's such a big, it's almost like a negotiation that you're doing with the city. That's a huge negotiation. As far as the superintendent, they don't really know the numbers. They know their numbers. More superintendents, they design in a vacuum. They may be site specific for their golf course. They may know those numbers for those golf courses. But most often, you really, as a superintendent, and I tell them this all the time, you really want to hire somebody that can help you through that. And you know, designers and superintendents work hand in hand. So there's not a disconnect between us and the superintendents. But you guys aren't there yet because there's nothing really that they can contribute unless they're telling us what kind of mowers to buy at this point, and we don't need that answer yet. So we've logged in numbers that we feel are very safe and quite frankly are pretty conservative because we don't want you guys to come in. And we do feel like we can value engineer this. The biggest disadvantage that you guys have is that, and I tell this to every single owner when we get the first bids, the first round of bids are going to floor you. And that's what happens on all the bids come in and the owners go, oh my God, we're over budget by 30%. And then what we do is we go through and we negotiate with the contractor on how to value engineer each line item. So if they're telling me that, you know, it costs me this much money to move this dirt all the way over there, then I'm gonna say, okay, well, then let's do it different. Let's do it a different way. And I can figure that out from being a design builder and being a builder as much as I am a designer. The downside to it is I don't know how to do that. That's with the city. Because when I'm doing it with an individual, then I can go back and forth with that person and I can hard negotiate and I can, you know, we can trade things on and off. I'm not saying we can't do it. I just need to know how to do it or if it's possible. For example, real quick, an irrigation system. The way that you buy an irrigation system is a huge negotiation. You have Toro and Rainbow playing against each other. They don't give the contractors the number. They give the owner a number and they give the contractor a number. They give the owner a rebate. They will not go directly to the contractor. They don't want the contractor to know what the rebates are. So that's a dilemma on just when we RFP this, are we going to get the rebate or are they going to get the rebate? Because we're not buying the system. Unless we buy the system. We want to buy the materials. Now you have a whole other can of worms. Well, what if I buy too much? Well, what if I don't buy enough? Well, who's, you know, did they steal one and take it to another job? I mean, so we're happy to work with you on the details of this. The more you guys can spend going through this line item by line item, the more you guys will understand it's a solid number. I mean, but again, if you look at the golf course, the 18 holes, we have around $7.5 million. The driving range is $2, but the driving range has to include all of the dirt work and all of the storm drainage for that whole site. So the driving range sounds high. If you did the driving range and not the par 3, the driving range would be high. If you did the par 3 without the driving range, the par 3 would be high. Because there's some joint things that have to get done, no matter which one you do if you separate it. You're clearing.
I think you've covered it. I mean, the point is well taken. You understand what you're doing. And I think that level of information will help Bob and the city better understand it. And that seems to be what's lacking because they keep questioning everything. And from a distance, procurement is not something that, it's a tough thing because we want to do it right. And we don't want to be the ones with a problem of a rebate or anything. There's enough people in jail that, and I don't look good in orange, so. I don't want nothing to do with this thing. It's not done right. So I think you're working with Bob and helping work through with the city, will be a good thing. And I do agree you need one point of contact to kind of make this happen. It can't be a plethora of people to ask questions for. You need direction from one person to go forward on it. So, and they have to be fully available for you to help go through that.
And then just real quick, on a management thing, because since that came up, there's several ways to skin that cat. I mean, one of the ones that I particularly like, and Wayne and I may differ on this. I prefer to have the superintendent, maybe the assistant and the mechanic work directly for you guys, and then hire a management company.
Yes.
I mean, just there's little things like that. So yeah, just little tweaks like that that can put you on with me as a.
Thank you.
I think you're on the same page with Wayne.
I think this is exactly why we hired this firm, because of just this conversation that we were having demonstrated to me and the rest of us that you're the appropriate people for the job because you've done enough of them. And but I still want to see you get up on that front end loader and grade off that green.
I started a job in April 1st. I've been on a bulldozer 6 days a week until Saturday at 6 o'clock every single day since I started that job. Superintendent said, first week, you've got to be kidding me. You've been here this week longer than my other architect was here the entire job in the first week.
We have higher expectations here, so you got 7 days.
I can't do more than blood.
Next time.
Can we move on to one? I don't know, is there anything else related to that topic?
No, but you need to amend the invoices.
Yeah, I apologize. I oversight the team does want to get paid, so I would like to make an authorization for $11,609.77 for payroll. I failed to put that in the bottom line number previously.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Post like sign. Motion passes, Chairman. Okay, does anyone else have anything for Mr. Fazio or about the golf course? I know you have to leave, Mr. Ernst.
I hate to miss another part of it.
I know you do. They're gonna hold the.
5 minutes.
Oh, they are?
Thank you for your help. We're gonna move on to reports and discussions. Brianne? Mr. Goring?
Just briefly, Madam Chair, the question is asked about the status of the appraisal with regard to Ocean Strand. I communicated with Bob Miller from the Urban Group this past weekend. The notes I have from him suggested that he should be finalizing his draft this week. So it'll be earlier than expected. And,
That's good.
As soon as I get a draft, I'll publish it to the board and digest it from there. But it's going to be here sooner than later.
Good, okay, great, that's wonderful. Aaron, do you have anything? Steve?
Just one brief remark. Mike, I always appreciate your attendance at our meetings. I think it helps to know where we're coming from and where you're coming from. I think the communication is great. But I'm surprised and disappointed that there's nobody here from City Council staff. And it was nice that Andrea was here, and I appreciated her presentation. but no other member of council showed up, and no member of city council staff showed up. I think it would have gone a great deal, it would have helped a great deal in their understanding of our positions. In the same manner as Brianne's attendance of the city council workshop.
Thank you, Steve. Bob? You good? I'm good, and I do want to thank Brianne for attending these workshops. It's a long process, and she does an excellent job. I watch it all. I'm very, very happy that she's there representing all of us. Any future agenda items? Brianne, do you know anything? The banking RFP, okay. And I don't have anything else. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.